That's definitely broken, Kristin.
Stick to it.
Anyway, then it's.
This one seems bad. It seems bad for wheels. Oh, you fixed it? Oh, they just pop off that.
Yeah, there's the one chair that's with the faulty wheels.
Note to self, I know that was the chair.
But they were very comfortable.
Well, I think we
Yeah, I
have
was gonna-
everybody we're expecting, so we'll try to get started tonight. So we'll call the rec board to order today. So going down the agenda, we have, do we have any public comment today? Wonderful, seeing no public comment, we're on to the.
I mean, if you're asking nicely.
Moving on to the approval of the July minutes. Everyone have a chance to review minutes in your packet. Would anyone like to make any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, would anyone care to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Wonderful. Motion, do we have a second? Second motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Wonderful, minutes passed. Next, on to the financial report. Do we have anything out of the ordinary to draw attention to on the financial report this month? Any questions that we had or anything you want to draw our attention to today, Randy?
One of the things that was for me eye-opening or life learning, I guess you could say it was ignorance or failure to ask. Was I didn't realize that the playground materials and supply budget, materials and supply playgrounds was shared with Public Works. So I was under the impression that $30,000 that was budgeted for that line item was for the playground program, for materials and supplies for the playground. I guess the last probably 10 days of the program is when I was enlightened that it was a shared budget with Public Works. That line is over budget, but comparable to the materials and supplies that were spent last year, we're spot on with what we spent on the playground. So it's showing over budget because we had to put new mulch down, we had playground inspections, topsoil that was put down at the playgrounds. So anytime that Public Works buys materials or supplies that's specific for the playground, it goes to that line. Does that make sense?
Is there a way to break those line items up?
We already asked Phyllis, and because of the way the state assigns budget codes, there's no other place we could put it that would make sense, and it's not gonna raise a red flag with the auditor. So it came down to Randy and Greg having a conversation about just communicating, one, going into a budget year, if the 30,000 is being increased, what's the purpose it's being increased for, who's it allocated to, and communicating as the year moves on, who's doing what.
So in the beginning of the year, you'll be able to say, all right, Public Works needs 15 of it, you get 15 of it.
Yep.
And oh, they had a big project, so you're gonna have to cut back.
Yes.
The
Vice
hope is
versa.
not that there's unexpected
No,
projects,
right.
but yes.
But like,
I
but
think
you'll know internally.
How to
it's-
control it better is have
it's-
monthly reconciliation
Yeah.
meetings that we will go through and go, okay, here's where I'm at, here's where you're at, what do we still got left here?
But at the beginning of the year, you're still gonna say,
Yes,
we get
Yep.
18, they get.
and it's the same way with the
Try
pool.
and keep close to that, okay.
The pool materials and supplies is another shared line with Public Works. That one's under budget, because we don't technically spend much money from a recreational standpoint on materials and supplies for the pool. Moonlight swims, DJs, things like that, that go against that line. Lifeguard uniforms, whistles, but that line is under budget.
Because we haven't had the floods, right? Because so if there was a flood and Public Works had to come to clean up the mess, would that be under that line item?
The chlorine part would, and like the actual, their time spent to, assuming like in 2018 we had to drain the pool, completely start from scratch. Their time is going to be
Different.
well, it's gonna be taken out of that budget category.
The materials and supplies.
Or would it go against
Is there
salaries?
just
Pool salaries.
Something along those lines.
Well, let me ask this, I'm looking at these line items in your July 2024, are they the same as what Phyllis is showing, or are these?
These are from Phyllis.
Okay, so where is there, so the materials and
right here,
supplies is.
204.
Right here up on the screen. So here's the playground category, the
Right.
pool's right above it, you can see the amount budgeted for the year, and
Right,
then over here's your excess and your deficit. So
right,
there's 43,000, almost 44, sitting in materials and supplies for pool versus 2,400
2,400
over for playground.
I guess the question is, out of that 90 that's budgeted, how much do you think is actually public works that's doing stuff and how much is actually pool? Like what,
I would
because that
say,
doesn't include salaries
I mean, if I
or.
don't have my computer, every time I have my own, it's like a checkbook. Anytime I charge in into any lines, I have a running list of everything that I purchase. I don't have it with me tonight, but I mean, I can get it in an email to you if you wanna see what it is, but like it was literally lifeguard uniforms, whistles.
Do we have anything from last year's budget process that would show that breakdown between what we were expecting to spend as rec versus what Public Works would have accounted for out of those?
We do, like this year, we spent roughly $25,000 on the playground materials and supplies. And Greg's group has spent about $7,000 to $8,000.
They spent 14.
But I think, like, you had Cintas in there, that shouldn't go there. There were certain things that are specific to the playground that are not Public Works.
I guess
So,
that's kinda hard, cause depending on the year, like Public Works might need, like there's issues that they need to address on certain years, depending on weather, depending on like the conditions.
well, for
I would
instance,
imagine it could
we had
vary.
we had a playground inspection this year.
Yeah,
And we didn't get shut down, we passed and everything was fine, but there were certain items that we need to fix within 12 months. And so for
then
next
they're gonna
year,
have to
he's
go out.
going to have to budget money for those items. For
Right.
instance, the distance between one of the game or spinning things is not what code calls for between it and where the mulch ends. So he's gotta add 3 feet to the distance there. So
Oh, the one
it's
where you
not,
hold on.
I don't know which one
I
it
don't
is.
So how often do we get
the
inspected?
playground inspections, but
Greg found somebody,
Yeah.
it's okay.
he's in the, I don't
Let's
think
try to
he's
make sure
started
we
yet, but
reflect
he,
on
his
it.
intent is to get
Supplies,
certification
not
himself, so he can do
Oh,
it.
that would be great.
Yeah.
I think Kristin had another question.
I'm trying to understand, like, how things get quantified as a material or a supply, like an inspection, or if salary is getting billed in there as well.
Salary wouldn't be under materials and
Okay.
supplies.
Salary's payroll, so anything
so
that's
that
hitting
was-
payroll
okay,
is,
so I misunderstood that earlier, but like, pest control, I know it gets billed under there, and then an inspection, but that's not, to me at least, I don't interpret that as a physical.
From what Greg was saying this morning,
Material
he
or
goes off
supply.
historical data of where it's been charged before, because
Okay.
one of Phyllis's things, and not knocking her or patting her on the back, but
Yeah.
in order to look at historical data, you need to keep it in the same place you've had it
Yep.
to be able to compare.
Yeah.
there's also, keep in mind, all of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 digit, these codes, these are, there's over 500 of them assigned by the state. So we can't add a code that the state doesn't already provide, so if there's not a category, like there was a question this morning about a grant check that came in, nothing to do with the rec department, just a grant check, but it's a good example. There's only one grant category for revenue the state recognizes, and it is state grant funding. So where do you put grant money that's not coming from the state? And the answer is you effectively have to put it in the budget revenue category where the expense is offsetting the revenue.
I mean, I see like playground maintenance. I understand you have to go historically, but I'm just trying to.
So you're
Yeah,
looking,
overall,
are you
I'm
looking
just
more
trying
of a
to-
clarification between what's the difference
Yeah, I'm
between
just trying to understand it
maintenance and
and
materials?
make sense of it a little bit.
And I also would
And
say-
it's
oh,
not
sorry.
really my place to question it necessarily, I'm just trying to understand why things would be.
No, I think
in
it's
that
a
category.
good question to make sure, because at the end of the day, you know, these are the budgets that come out from us, we're the ones who are approving this and sending this along, so we need to make
Right.
sure we understand those, so we can, I
Yeah.
think we should be able to understand and question those at this
Right.
point, so I think it's the appropriate place.
Yeah, and also like the difference between the pool, I mean, like, so we're 2,400 over on the playground, but like, we're almost 44,000 above.
But we haven't closed the pool yet, so there's a
So
lot of
what
end
do
of
we
season work.
anticipate?
And he also
for
has
that?
some end of pool season things to do at the pool.
Like all
Change out the
cleaning
lights.
and the,
Absolutely, that'd be
Training.
charged to
so
it.
you anticipate that like being
Well,
spent, that
when
money?
we went over it this morning, he said Steve was providing him with a detailed accounting of where that money would be spent and what they're gonna do with it.
So they're intending to spend it all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kate,
How
go
often
ahead.
do we get
Can we get Kate's
inspected?
question real quick, Jen?
Playground? Best practice is annually. We could not find someone in 23 that there was one person in a 100-mile radius that did it, and she was not returning phone calls or emails.
So we can annually assume to pay about $4,500 a year towards
Well, the
inspections.
hope is Greg's been talking about getting the certification himself, so we could do it in-house.
That would be nice.
Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. The maintenance, the materials and supplies of the pool for 90,000, if that's not spent, next year, can you still request that amount?
Yes.
Okay.
And typically,
Why was it so high? What did we not buy?
I'm guessing there were things coming out of the pool safety assessment we had done that were thrown in that budget category, because we budgeted, I believe, 130 or 150,000 this year. Yeah, 150.
Can we take some of that and
Bless you.
replace the diving board with that, per se?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you heard what Randy just said, but the expectation is that balance is going to be spent in the next month or two.
Yeah, I didn't know what was that on.
Well, that's Steve's getting Greg a detailed list of what that will encompass.
So that's including some repairs as well.
I would expect so, yes.
Yeah, for
Because there was
instance,
a list of repairs, I just was curious if we're gonna waste, like, we have it budgeted, let's do it. You know, let's get some repairs done before it gets cold.
yeah, absolutely. I don't think any of it's gonna be wasted. I think like
Not
he was
wasted,
looking at the lights. He told me 3 things this morning. I
Yeah,
don't remember off the top of
yeah,
my
I
head, but there were 3 specific items that Steve is getting pricing on.
Yeah.
And then forecasting what is it gonna cost to close the pool. So
We haven't even covered yet?
that's in the budget for next year, 60,000.
Yeah, that's ouch.
We're asking.
Any
for.
other questions on the financial report? No other questions, so I have a motion to approve financial report. We have a motion, do I have a second?
One second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Wonderful, so the financial report is approved. On to committee reports. Kristin, you're up first. End of the playground.
Over. So it is done. We sent out a parent survey and we got overwhelmingly positive feedback, pretty aligned with what we've heard through the summer. 98% of those completing the survey said they were happy with how the program was run, compared to the survey from last year where 70% were happy with it, so that was a pretty big increase. The majority of people who responded also said that they felt pricing was appropriate, but they said that an increase would be justified if we were to extend the program for an additional week or 2 at the end of the summer, which is what we've been discussing. We have put that on there as an option, as well as extending the program until 1, which was the other thing we have been batting around. And the majority are saying they prefer the longer, the additional weeks to that additional hour per day. The structure of next year, kind of tying into that, where we are leaning is, but ultimately we want to do 2 weeks, hopefully at the 2 weeks longer, but we're gonna trial it 1 week longer just to see how it goes with staff, since we'll be losing some of our college staff that'll leave to go back. So it'll be mostly high school staff, and we had heard from Erin and Nikki that they tend to get into a little bit of a slump, the staff, toward the end of the summer, so we kind of just wanna see how 1 week goes, and then we'll kind of go from there, but we wanna roll it out a little bit slowly. And then Randy and I have been talking about pricing and things like that. When you look at the price currently, it nets out to $1 an hour. So realistically, it's not expensive, but most people don't look at it that way. So we're kind of trying to figure out how to approach it. For next year, we want to hopefully structure it the same way with the activity things like that. We're gonna look at what the kids liked, what they didn't, look for new ideas if anyone has questions. The survey, some parents did say that kids still felt like they were sort of obligated to participate, didn't really like that.
Oh, perfect.
Or we're leaving because the special events were over, so we wanna, lean into figuring out a fix for that. And we're gonna optimistically keep an eye on House Bill 1746, see if it moves, so we can bring our little ones back, but I'm not, thinking there's gonna be much movement there. So, we'll see. So as of now, we'll plan on completion of kindergarten and up, like we did last year. For staffing, we are gonna do interviews at Wyomissing and Berks Catholic to start. Rainey and I have been talking about potential higher starting rate to try to get some new faces in. It's a lot of the same kids, and we want to try to bring in some new ones. And that $8.50 an hour is just not very appealing, so we're gonna try to work that out. We want to keep defining their roles and responsibilities to really clarify who does what. And we also, with that, are going to work out some sort of disciplinary procedure, like a 3-strike. If you're corrected, it's documented, and to avoid continued redirection of the same people again and again and again. But with that, we need to know where to get a replacement if somebody gets that 3rd strike. So there's a lot that comes with that. So that's something that we're going to be discussing.
Kristin, I have a question. Did
Yes.
Aaron and Nikki express interest in returning next year?
I believe so, yes. I know that Aaron plans to, and I'm pretty sure that Nikki will as well. Yes. And then we just have some just general housekeeping kind of things. Just we need to figure out a really good way to keep the courts and the playgrounds clear. And I know that we're rewording that ordinance, which should help. We've been talking about some different signage, and I know that we're hopefully gonna be able to get a fence as part of the repairs on the basketball courts at the Hills. I think we put that on the wish list, so here's hoping. I think that will go a long way towards making that easier to manage. And then the 4th of July, just prior to the interviews, we'll need to know how hard we need to push that and require that. And at some point we'll need to talk about court ball and the Hollow Hills rivalry. It's very ugly. It's gotten heated. I don't know, baseball that you play on a court.
It was invented by one of the borough councilmen.
So, yeah, so it's,
violent game.
yes, but,
You said it's a violent game, Kate?
It can be.
it's a
Let
lot
kids stay
of,
away from it.
yeah, it's a lot of counselors playing, not kids, and a lot of redirection, a lot of redirection is there, and a lot of unsportsmanlike behavior that.
Counselors play while they're working.
Yes.
They love it because they played it.
Which,
So they want the kids to play it.
but they don't really let the kids play, they just play themselves.
Oh, forget it.
So, I think at the very least, we'll get rid of the, tournament. I think that's gonna be maybe the starting point. Well, I know. I wouldn't be the one to get the calls, so it's easy for me to say,
I'd like to see them come back to school.
yeah. Well, I didn't even put that on my list.
What was that, Kate?
She wants to see them coming back to the pool.
Playground?
It can be done.
I don't think it can be done.
That's a huge
I feel
liability.
pretty strongly.
Yeah, huge liability and extra
Pay.
pay.
Hey, we
Yeah,
spend money on
okay.
salary and we don't have any revenues coming in for it.
I guess you could do maybe I'm not saying like a combined, what if you offered like
I thought it was just.
an individual, like, not that we're watching the kids pool. If you sign up for
That's
the playground,
that's
we'll
what they're
give you
discussing.
a discounted,
But
like,
that's,
package.
no, that's not
Yeah,
what
that's
we're
not
talking, we're
it.
talking about, we as the borough's playground program are responsible for watching our children in the pool.
I thought it was I thought something went
Some
wrong
sort of
and,
package.
and people were like, we're not doing it. And I thought something happened to make it stop. I thought an incident
It was
happened.
never officially approved. No one in administration had any idea that was even happening.
Yeah. It takes a lot of molding to make it successful.
Well, and there were parents who were basically using the playground staff, back when my kid was young enough, the playground staff at the pool as babysitters. And
Not every parent does that right, I get that.
yeah, I mean, I would see it happening when
Yeah,
the city
of
was
course,
there.
of course.
It's just, yeah, I don't think it makes any sense.
Yeah, I think there would be a lot of
Yeah.
work involved, and I mean, we've had discussions, but I think it would be
So we made a lot of
Easier?
changes to the
Yeah.
program this year overall.
Yeah.
yeah.
Did we get a lot of feedback from staff as to how those changes were received? Like, were they receptive to those changes? What did we get the biggest pushback from the staff? Yeah.
I don't know that Erin ever quantified that for us, if she gave that to you or not.
She didn't,
Um,
verbally telling us. Everybody loved the fact that it was more organized, there were more things to do. It didn't have to find stuff for kids to do because it was all outlined what to do. Some of the old heads who had been counselors for a while were used to sitting on their phones, hanging out with their friends, and they weren't open to change. And she identified those quickly. And those are the people that didn't cooperate and didn't get as many hours as they probably wanted because they resisted change. Those people will still go through the interview process next year as possible candidates, but if we can get better people who want to embrace what we want to do as a program. So to answer your question, the short of it is, yes, there were some that were resistant to change. Overwhelmingly though, people love the fact that it was a better program than it's been in the past, from an employee standpoint.
Were there end of season evaluations for all these?
Yeah.
yeah, I think the ones that like to work with the kids and the ones who really wanted to be there gave positive feedback. The ones who wanted to be there to hang out with their friends and do bare minimum, those are the ones who
And those
didn't have good feedback.
those evaluations, are they with
I have,
Randy?
I have.
Perfect, so you have them to review
Mhm.
for your needs going forward, so we have that for future
Yep.
reference.
Yes, so we have those for everybody, for all of the playground stuff, and then Randy did evaluations for Erin and Nikki as well. And that is it for me, so we've started, little talks about next year, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Kristin?
Comment.
You had a question about my meeting with Senator Schwank.
Yes, well, I just mentioned it and
It's-
said I'll remain cautiously optimistic that I know it's gonna die.
It's not
Sad,
really
slow death.
good news. So I didn't have to give her any background. She is all too familiar with it. Her primary suggestion was we are not a member of PSATs because that's the Pennsylvania State Association of Townships. We are a member of PSAT, which is the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs. Unfortunately, townships have way more power in Harrisburg and just in general than a borough. So she suggested we partner second and third class townships, the way their structure is set up by the state government, they do. So she strongly suggested we reach out to Bern Township, Spring Township, some of the more adjacent larger townships, to ask if at the next PSATS meeting, which I believe their annual meeting is in the spring, somebody get this on, like, they vote similar to how council votes. They vote as members as to yay or nay what positions they want to take on all types of things that are going through different committees in Harrisburg. She did talk about getting the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society involved. They are very much aware of this, we know that. The short version as to the current bill and where it's sitting, it's in the Appropriations Committee. The legislature only goes back in session September 16th and they only have 9 days in the remainder of the year, so basically this is not getting touched. It's gonna die in committee unless someone reintroduces it, it's not gonna come back. Senator Schwank did share that she has met with DHS, which is the Department of Human Services, on multiple occasions to attempt to talk to them about this. She's met the individual that signed the cease and desist letter that Sinking Spring got, and basically the pushback anyone who brings this up gets is, you don't care about children or their safety. So, you know, I was playing devil's advocate a little bit, and I said, so where's the common ground of, if I as a parent understand that you are not a licensed daycare facility and you want to take my child and I'm willing to fork over money for you to do so, like, where's my personal accountability as an adult and a parent? And she's like, that's a great question, but DHS doesn't care. So I don't think anything's going to happen with it anytime soon. The lobbying arm of the private daycares is very strong.
Yeah.
Our lobbyist has effectively flagged any action on this bill or future bills related to it. She'll send me an update on. But I would say stay tuned until next spring.
And I would, to speak to the private daycare hold on it, I would say like the ratio to me was, I was incredulous at the ratio for preschool. So for private preschool, it's 20-1. And for school age children, it's 20-1. So that speaks to the point that, like, if you're looking for what's best for kids, you wouldn't have the same ratio for a 3-year-old as you would for like 12-year-olds. So I think the private daycare definitely makes sense that they are influencing the law in that respect.
Well, I appreciate all of the extra hard work in the playground. I know there was some heavy lifts over there, and we thank you for grabbing us and doing a great job with Kristin.
Yes. Keep it going.
All right, moving on for the pool, Mike, what you got?
You wanna pull it up? Kate arranged a pool committee meeting last Monday, and we basically just kind of circled back on what was done at the first meeting. Randy was there, and we kind of addressed those issues, and we also identified other issues. If anybody has any questions, but I think the biggest thing that came up, the most significant thing is that the manager, Chris, is looking to organize a dive team. Unfortunately, the diving board that's installed at Wyomissing at the pool is not competition rated, so we would have to have a new one installed if we're going to have a diving team that meets at our place.
Do we know what the cost is for that?
Well, Chris looked at
$7,000 installed.
Yeah, $7,000, but it has to be anchored and it's cement, and so, I mean, I would say, what do you say, Kate?
10,000 to
Yeah,
install.
10,000.
Because you probably have to rent machinery
Yeah.
to go into the cement like
Yeah, I
that.
think
Just
our
to
Borough
replace the
guys could
extra
probably-
plug was a rental of a machine.
Is that just for one dive board though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what, there's that
One,
small little beaky board, but there's no way to adjust, there's a wheel on the diving board.
Fulcrum adjustment.
So there's no way for his divers to get that practice if he starts a team and compete and even practice at Wyomissing with what's there. The little bitty board can stay, that's kinda nice for the people who are just learning, but yeah, the other one has the frame, all you really need is the wheel and the board.
Is there any estimate of how many kids would sign up if team was started?
He thinks probably a dozen, and
He
he
says
said,
as much as 32.
yeah, about,
Yeah,
32,
32,
okay, and see, I have seen him, he watches people on the board like I watch people swimming. So he's identified kids who have some ability and talked with them, and he's recruiting, you know what I mean, like he naturally does that because that's in who he is, he's already a coach. So I can tell you he probably could find a good sized team. We've had divers on our Wyomissing Wahoo team that just dive, they practice and compete at other pools, but they're on our roster, we pay for them and they're members of our pool. So we've had divers in the past, just random. But I think he could cultivate a lot of interest. It's amazing. You know, when you're passionate about something, it really shines through. So.
May I ask a question for
Sure.
that? So the borough, and correct me if I'm wrong, the borough pays the salary for the swim coach?
Yep.
Okay, So would we be looking to pay the salary for the diving
Yeah.
coach?
Yes.
And possibly an assistant,
Okay.
if he needs one.
And would there be a return on that? Would there be any income coming in?
Yeah, I think with the swim fees, you know, the dive fees, you know, just like this, you know, you'd subsidize the coach with the fees.
So do they have to
Doesn't-
pay like a
fees
dive?
don't-
There's
fees
no
don't come in
revenue.
there that way, it's just like every other swimmer, each
Oh yeah, I
diver.
don't understand it.
So, in order to be a part of Berks County Swimming Association, which includes diving, every person has to be a member of their pool. You can't have a special diving and swimming membership, it's not allowed.
You can't bring in a ringer.
Yeah, you can't bring it in. So,
So you have to have a membership.
so
Gotcha.
what will happen, the revenue from the divers will be that they have to be pool members, so we'll have to have them, they have to be a pool member.
Right, so you're
So
looking
that's
to
the-
recruit
that's what you're
additional
That's your
kids,
gain.
not from the current population of
That's our
swimmers.
gains. We have
Is that the point?
approximately 100 people from the swim team giving revenue to the pool by joining the pool because they have to be members in order to swim.
Gotcha.
So
And then so
that's-
you're looking
that's
to
what
recruit additional
Yeah.
pool
Right,
members.
yeah, so that's what you get.
Yeah, but don't walk away thinking that that's 30 to 35 new people, because some of them might be
Yeah.
swimmers
Right?
Right?
already that already have a
yeah,
pool
I-
membership that was
I-
above,
I-
yeah.
100 swimmers, you say?
I should probably preface expectations by saying this is going to be a very tough budget year.
Sure.
We have some pretty large scale facility improvements like Borough Hall, the police department, we just bought $1 million fire engine, we're negotiating a police department contract, we just took on 3 additional employees in the fire department. So it's, you know, there's not a lot of fun money floating around, but I mean, I wanna set a reasonable expectation as to where the budget conversation's probably gonna go this year.
I have a solution. I mean,
Raise taxes?
Chris is currently one of the diving coaches at Wilshire Pool, who have a team, so some of our divers have dove at Wilshire. He could continue to do that and bring more of our WYO swimmers there if Wilshire allowed him to do that, while we budget for, and we plan for a new diving board in another year. So I mean, he still has access, he's in that diving world, so he has, you know, he can talk with some people, maybe he can get pool time somewhere else.
My thought also is maybe we could look at some grant applications for next year, because, I mean, if I were a council member and saying there's a $10,000 expense, not including salary or anything else for maybe 30 kids,
Right.
that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
It is. It
But
is. But
I
it's so
know-
exciting for the diving world.
I will shoot an email to our grant writer who knows every and any grant program out there to see if there's something that's applicable.
And I think if you needed something written, myself or Chris could write something passionate about benefits of diving.
Well, and maybe we go for a big picture grant that encompasses that, plus we were just talking about we need a new pool cover, that's $60,000.
Sure.
All of those other things
And
coming out of that safety assessment.
Our team has grown exponentially, like we have a lot of data in the positive section.
So do we pay for the swim instructors for the YOWs?
Yes. We are,
Coach.
like, we are,
The coach and the assistant coach.
I believe, the only
Yeah.
municipality that does that, but it's been that way forever, is my understanding.
Shillington still does it that way.
Okay.
And there's a lot of private pools that do that.
Yeah.
It does.
And then the other coaches are out.
But we're not a private pool.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying.
The head coach and assistant coach are salaried, and then the other positions are hourly. And most of them are already guards, so they're on the payroll as guards as well.
In your overall numbers for your budget.
So it's 8 to, well, they don't all coach from 8 to 12, most of them coach from 10 to 12 if they're coaching the assistants.
Jen, to go back to the starting block conversation, that's the reason the answer was no, because we already paid for those things.
Wait, you guys didn't pay for the starting blocks?
No, but the point was, we said no
Correct.
to paying for them because we already pay for the coach salary.
Yeah, I think that we could maybe make some sort of an agreement as to financially what the swim team is responsible for and historically what they're not. So just talking to some people, you know, and how, because we're, as a board, we're kind of trying to figure out if you guys decide to not pay our coach's salary, what do we do? How are we gonna pay that person, you know? We don't know,
That's fair.
so,
Do you guys fundraise?
yeah. do is get some back, 10% back. Spirit. Whatever. Well, diving.
So, some ideas, everybody has it in print, electronically, so if anybody has any questions.
Would not be fun. I think people could do that.
Yeah.
Something we could do.
Don't be thinking.
Any other items draw attention to? Obviously, we all had the report. Anything else? Conversation or questions for the pool committee? The one I saw about the Red Cross swimming certifications, is that something that is just Chris running it down? Is that something we think is gonna come to a finish line? Where do we think that's gonna end up landing?
Well, I called the Red Cross and they're trying to figure that out. There's a lot of interest in trying to, reboot that program. There's nothing really available like in this county right now, so.
But what Chris did say was if we
Yeah.
couldn't do that, he'd
Yeah.
develop a more structured
Yeah,
program with a curriculum that follows the Red Crosses.
yeah.
That it won't be the official Red Cross swim lessons, but it would be more in tune with that than what we've done in the past.
Do you indicate that in the rec guide?
No.
Like, I would not have signed Emily up for the swim lessons that she took because it wrecked her confidence.
Yeah, I think
But
it's,
Cindy was traumatized.
I think it's,
Really did.
I think it's very misleading.
Yeah, I think it should be reworded for sure if they're not actually trained.
Well, that's the
It should-
idea of
should be
having,
called, lessons.
in talking to people, there's two types that go to swim lessons. Babysitting and people who actually wanna learn how to swim.
Yeah.
And there's a need for both of them. So that said, we're gonna look into making our swim lessons, if we can't make them Red Cross certified, make them more in tune with the curriculum, and then look for other activities, and don't call it swim lessons, call it swim with the mermaid, call it mommy and me, call it whatever you want, but come up with a program that's more babysitting type water activity versus swim lessons. Because it's so confusing and misleads people.
I think it would be really nice to have, if you could find someone in the community that wanted to get certified, like, I think that would be a great service to the community to have. I would almost go after an adult though, as opposed to a kid, cause you put in the money for a kid to get certified, and 2 years later they're gone, and they might not come back, but if you put in the money for, a 40-year-old resident in the community that's been living in the borough for 5 years and intends to stay in the borough.
Well, what Chris used as
He
an
gets more
example is
feedback
if
from
he
that.
got certified, he can't certify anybody for 2 years. He has to hold his certification for 2 years before he can teach anybody
Gotcha.
to be a certified instructor.
Yeah.
And do I remember somebody saying there's currently nowhere in the state
Right.
you can go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So I mean, I don't think that's
That's a
necessarily
big ask.
a bad idea. If we know that, if Chris or if someone else is, willing to make that multi-year commitment to say,
Yeah.
we'll do that and be here for those years to be able to
Yeah, train our own people.
outsource that from the pool itself, I think that's an investment that I think we'd be open to making for just those sorts of things.
Yeah.
If we wanna be able to offer swim lessons, not just swim with the mermaid. I think the need for that first half of actual swim lessons and some of the feedback that you guys have shared from the pool before, where just because you're teaching on the swim team doesn't mean you're teaching swim lessons. There's a big gap between those two sorts of things.
Mike, when you called, how far away, did you get any feedback from Red Cross? How far away?
I just called the local office here, they don't know. But I remember, I told them, 25, 30 years ago, every lifeguard had their WSI. That was just,
I did.
yeah, and, I taught swimming lessons at the Wyomissing pool, but,
We had it good with those Whitmer girls that were here, and the program was Red Cross run. And remembering that the people that are assistant coaching, that are out and helping with the swim team, are the people who do the sport. 9 times out of 10, exception of a few people, the swim team instructors are soccer players and lacrosse players. And I would never, my daughter would not be able to coach or teach soccer or lacrosse because she doesn't know those rules. So we're asking non-swimming type people as well, lifeguards who are eager to do it, but don't really understand it as well.
Great.
So we don't, you have to remember that too.
Yeah.
So you really need guidance, really need guidance.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, there's Sally. That's exactly what I mean. An adult. That's perfect. You'd be perfect. You'd be perfect.
Go Sally.
I would love to do that. I would love to get certified and be the person. I just don't know how that would work. Finding a program and then just being on rec board. I don't know if I can do it as a volunteer
You
or
can do it.
not, but
You can do it.
I would
I can look
Well,
into
we
that
study-
if you're serious
we'll
about
do
it,
it.
like maybe there's a conflict.
No.
yeah, like a conflict, because I wouldn't.
Yeah, cause I
I
mean,
don't
then
wanna
she's
be
potentially
employed,
taking a
just
paid position and
training.
she's on a board that's voting, that would be a conflict, yeah.
Gotcha.
But I mean,
Well, apparently 2 years it would take you.
Yeah, I mean, a little down the road then, but I mean, it's something, I actually wanted to get certified just for myself anyway, so it's something I can do to contribute.
Nice little
That's
side gig.
perfect.
Okay.
That was a great song.
That-
you have to find your replacement on the rec board first, you can't leave, so you have
Right.
2+ years to find your replacement, and you have to step
While
down
you're
to do
studying.
that.
But that would be, that's exactly what we would need, like an adult, like to do it.
Do it.
'Cause
Well, that's, Chris wants to do it. He's all gung ho to do it. And I talked to him about the 2-year commitment and possibly 3 years. And verbally, he said, yeah, Randy, I don't plan on leaving.
Does he live locally? Does he live?
I don't know if he
around
moved
here?
in with his girlfriend or not. I think he's like 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away.
But a little bit more like, not as committed to the borough as Sally is, for example.
Yeah, but I mean,
We
he's,
can have more than one.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
better if someone,
absolutely.
like, has a house here. More tied.
I
That would be
did,
exciting.
I did see one, I don't know if this matters, but I did a little research, I spent 15 minutes looking into it, and I did see that, the Canadian Red Cross, their Canadian version, they discontinued all the swim, certifications in 2022 or 2023. They just discontinued certifying anybody.
Wow.
Maybe there's another company.
Yeah,
Maybe
Is
there's
there-
another program.
so there might be,
So no one knows of any alternatives to
Well-
Red Cross swim certification? I
Mention
mean,
that.
obviously, it's
No.
like the prevalent
Because
one.
they're like-
Swim program.
the-
my kids learned to swim at Albright, and it was always Albright learned to swim, and the swim team kids did it, they gave them a certificate, but to Kate's point, you need somebody who knows how to swim and understands swimming and
But
teach
yeah,
swimming.
at least give them some guidance,
Yeah.
because the girl said she can't swim and told Emily she couldn't swim, and then Emily was like, well, I can't swim, and then wouldn't get in the pool. So
Yeah.
like maybe at least like, whether they can teach them or not, tell them what to say, and maybe like,
Right,
you
that's
know.
what
Yeah, especially like with the young ones too, like when they like literally don't know how to blow bubbles, like they could put their face in the water and suck water out, like you gotta like really be careful with those types of skills, they could aspirate, like you gotta have somebody that knows the order of skills.
Any other questions for the pool committee? Well, I appreciate all the hard work and all the extra meetings you guys are putting in, and thank you so much. And on to Sally into the fall festivals, alrighty, Spooky Hollow.
Yes, so today's a great day to talk about Spooky Hollow, we have a little cooler weather today. Randy and I met a couple of weeks ago, to kind of just start planning, and at this point, we're kind of looking at, bringing back everything that we had last year, and improving on how well we're running everything and kind of getting it, a little bit more organized, a little bit more covered. Thank you so much to Kareem and to Kristin and Jessica for joining me to be on the committee. I think we're gonna talk about having a committee meeting next week. Hopefully we can all get together and kind of continue to go forward. Randy has last week did a fantastic job reaching out to lots of community members, coaches, club organizers, some private food vendors, just try to start getting people to commit both to the original date and to our rain date.
Nice.
Because that was, one thing that we really struggled with last year, with changing the date. So, we're really trying to get people to commit to both of those if possible. And Randy, you've gotten several people who have responded and, said they, they can't do it or they can't do it, and then, waiting to hear back from some others, but, yeah, I mean, we really did a
Yeah, I
great
think
job
that we-
of getting a lot
some-
of the basics,
Yeah.
going, so, stay tuned, and even if you're not on the committee, if you know, are interested in helping out, that day, or, anything particular you're interested in doing to help out for planning, I definitely could, use your help, so, yes,
When is it, sorry?
October 19th,
19th,
Thank you,
and then the rain date is the 20th.
20th.
thank you.
And if you remember last year, we had a date, a rain date, and then another date.
Yeah, yeah, as well. And, we're extending it by 1 hour to, right? Is it that?
3 to 6 p.m.
3 to 6 p.m. instead of 2 hours, 3 to 6, because we just had so many wonderful things for kids to do. It was hard for everybody to get through it all last year.
That the one where it got dark and people lost their kids though? Is it that you're extending it or you're starting it early?
Starting it early.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
think
an extra hour. It was 2 hours last year.
I can be the lady at the Gaga Ball, that's freebie again.
Absolutely.
Freebie Gaga Ball lady. I noticed the Borough Council had lanyards.
That's
With name tags.
Yes, I got them for them.
So, I would not like a lanyard, I would like it to say, I am something here where no one has to look down on me, I would like to have a name, that if I'm gonna do the Gaga pit, whatever, I'm whatever,
Yeah.
I wanna have like,
Some sort
I am
of,
a certified
not a
person to be
creep.
volunteering to steal your children.
Yeah.
Stickers.
It's really creepy.
They have those like plastic sleeves with a little pin on them, or a
Yeah,
little
I've seen
magnet
one.
on them, that you can print and slide in and reuse that plastic sleeve from year to year.
the magnet, that's a good idea. So then whatever you're wearing
That's
does.
possible,
Yeah.
Real boots.
do a pin.
So sunset is at 6
Pin is cheaper.
So Happy Hollow
Yeah.
will get dark before, like it'll get,
Well, it'll start.
it'll start getting dark.
And then we're planning on having a movie as well, after Spooky Hollow as well, so it'll be, which is something we had planned for last year, but we couldn't do it because of the weather conditions, and that will possibly play into it this year as well, but we're hoping to have everything that we had planned for last year.
Looks 5 to 7.
If council approves the bubble dome over the whole borough to block out bad weather, we'll never have to worry about rain days again.
That indoor facility.
We'll keep a comfortable
Yeah.
72 degrees with 50% humidity.
I like it.
One of the things that, I think was the tail end of what Pete had done, was he had said that there were going to be kind of a group of possibly playground employees, kind of like a back pocket phone book to call, possibly to offer maybe some paid hours for some of the cleanup work.
We had
overall.
those people last year, and of the 5 that were the names that I was given, not any of them replied back to me. As part of the exit interviews and the performance reviews, Aaron and Nikki talked to kids about the same thing, and we have 20 kids that have signed up to do it. I've emailed all 20 of them, and 12 of them have replied and said, yeah, I want to help out with Spooky Hollow. I want to help out with this. So.
Should we try to get volunteers first? Or we're
I
gonna
would,
just pay
'cause
them
you're
right
gonna break
after
your
that?
budget,
'Cause
but-
last year, I think we were just really late trying to get volunteers, but we're gonna.
And I think the rain date kind of screwed things
The
up a
rain
little
date,
too.
yeah.
Like I reached out to, the football team is gonna
Yeah.
supply football players
It's
to
like
work
a
the
football
football
game.
toss.
From game.
Field hockey, I sent a note to Kelly, and she's gonna get back to me. The drama club hasn't gotten back to me yet. Environmental club said they're going to. Soccer players are gonna come help. The cheerleaders are gonna come help.
I mean, I was thinking more along
Service
the lines of stacking the tables when it was getting dark from the rec board.
That's your
members.
job.
So it is a restaurant.
When, so last time,
I'll be there.
Dr. Jones said to just contact directly with a sign-up genius to club directors. So I don't know.
Have success.
And it's the easiest way to get.
I had a hard time with the earth
Yeah.
thing.
So she's probably, once school's in session, they'll probably, but I mean, they're probably not even gonna have a club together yet, so there might be a little bit of a lag there.
Well,
Or if it's the same,
Lauren from the environmental club emailed back and said,
Yeah.
Randy, I'll follow up as soon as
Yeah.
school gets started. I'll have an answer for you, but I definitely count on us.
And we're hoping to have a committee meeting next week,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that I would love more feedback on that and kind of brainstorming, not to shut you down, but I think that would be a great time too, to kind of make a plan, as to how to go about that.
My idea was to try to get more of the sports teams involved to help out with the carnival games versus just random people signing up to say I'll help. And so far it's been it's been good.
Yeah, and it did that aspect, if you remember, that aspect went really well last year. Like we had like a group of field hockey players come with their coach, you know, the soccer team came, so that. Now, we were just affected a lot by the rain date, as you remember, like we would have been better off with kind of a random assortment of volunteers if we had it on the original day. We were scrambling a bit, but that said, it did go well when we had.
Because didn't we have it on the homecoming dance or something? It ended up.
There was something
the
of
football
theater?
field dedication, and there was
Wasn't there
a
like a-
drama component.
There's the
There was
drama
all
thing,
of
this
that.
like,
Okay.
yeah.
We used to look at that, we used to look at the school calendar as well.
I don't think we
That
had a
date.
rain date. Didn't we not have one?
Not an actual one,
We
no.
made one up.
Yeah.
That's where, when, I think like next 2025, look at the school calendar.
No, well, this one, yeah.
It has a rain date then.
Yeah.
This one now doesn't, there's no like homecoming dance.
Well, homecoming's October 5th. I know that
So
already.
this one is planned accordingly.
Yeah,
Last year
Okay,
we just had
good.
to wing it.
alright. I think that's
Wonderful.
something.
Well, we'll look forward to the next report after the meeting. Sally, any other questions on Sleepy Hollow getting up and going?
Sorry, I just accidentally closed Randy's director's report.
And then on to the director report. Anything we missed that's left unsaid for you?
No, from a financial standpoint, the facilities rentals, $18.50 for revenues. One thing is I'm gonna start the fundraising campaign instead of, I guess traditionally it's been done at the end of the year, December into January. Nobody has any money to give out at the beginning of the year, so I'm gonna start it in October this year.
Last minute tax write-offs,
Yeah.
good idea.
The budgeting process, if you remember last year, I came in at the end of that and basically said, hey, here's your money, go spend it. This year is, I'm going through the process. A lot of the shared budget stuff and upgrades are meeting with Greg and going over what Public Works has in his budget or what he's asking for. Meeting with the pool committee, the playground committee, and talking to residents. That was a big one. Part of the pool committee was me going to the pool and just wandering around talking to people. What do you like? What do you don't like? What can we do better? So I'm going through that process now. We'll get started with Phyllis in.
She's actually behind normally, we've started by now.
So-
Not through her own fault, but we've started internally on a staff level, normally by now.
So, like I said, this morning I sat with Greg and we went over all the playgrounds and the pool. Quarry fields, tennis courts. We went over both of our wish lists of things. And then Michelle told me, Randy, good luck.
We had that same set the expectation pretty low, and then you'll be happy no matter what happens.
And Randy, can I chime in there for a second about the financials? So facility rentals, I did receive feedback from like a resident who's rented 8 times in the borough. They rented the Stone House 3 times and the Happy Hollow Pavilion 5 times, and it was before the price increase. And they just communicated that like they thought the prices were really high. That most people in Wyomissing can host a party in their home for free, and they have more square footage than those facilities afford. So the people that are renting those facilities are the people that have the smaller homes, and the prices are really high for the people that have the smaller homes. I understand like the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts utilize the facilities a good amount, and they don't pay the fee, but I did receive
unless
that.
it's a weekend rental.
Okay, I did receive that feedback, so I thought that was, since you're talking about like budget and financials for next year, I just wanted to share that I had gotten that feedback from a resident.
So those fees were raised, I believe, 2 years ago based off of research comparing other municipalities, which we are still under what others charge, and because we were having issues with people holding it and then at the last minute being like, no, I don't want it, I found somewhere else. So that and also leaving the facility in deplorable condition. And okay, so we're keeping your $20 key deposit, woohoo. That's not recouping expense for staff to go in and clean up the mess.
Right.
So the idea was to intentionally raise the fees to kind of keep out people who were like shopping.
Yeah, I understand the intention, but I'm just saying that this family rented 8 times. And they're like, we're not, there's no way we would pay that fee. Like, a small, so the people
But
that
she's-
have the smaller homes, the
I'm confused.
duplexes,
They rented
She's
it before.
rented it 8 times?
8 times prior to the fee increase.
Oh,
So they
2
rented
years
the
ago.
facility 8 times. You know, they've been borough
Do you remember
residents
what
for a
the
decade,
percent was?
and they
I
rented
think
it
it
8
went from like
times.
100 up to 300.
I just wanted to share that because I thought that was,
But again,
you know, it wasn't like they rented it
potentially
once. They
different.
rented it, they were
Yeah.
routinely renting the facility, and now it's out of their price range.
Okay.
Because like they could have a catering company come to their house, right, for that price, like that's kind of they perspective. So just wanted to share that.
Event-wise, we finished up the Ringgold Band and the Lantern Parade, and I'll be honest with you, I thought that was amazing. What a cool little hometown kind of thing. I'd never seen it before. And the playground kids and the kids from other places just go crazy with these lanterns and have so much fun. There were about 75 kids at that event and about 350 adults. And the funny part about it is it doesn't necessarily, they don't commingle. The people who go to watch the Ringgold Band kind of hang out on the hill and watch the band play, and which, if you have never seen the Ringgold Band, they're really good. And then the 75 kids and their parents are all over behind the Stonehouse and then go do their marching parade thing. But it was a really neat event. One of the things I found out in the process of getting ready for this is the Lantern Parade itself is over 110-year-old tradition in Reading. In years past, Wyomissing used to invite all the other playground programs to come over and participate. I don't know when it stopped doing that, but Wyomissing used to host it as an end of playground program ceremony. So that might be something we come back and do next year, is invite other programs. Because they're still open to, it's like the Easter egg hunt. Kids from other townships still come over here, or Borough still come over and hunt our Easter eggs. So it's something to look at.
Paying an
People
instant
playgrounds,
price.
used to be playgrounds would like, do dance competitions against one another and like baseball games against one another, and it was a big deal.
We could do court ball.
Yeah.
Against other, that's actually not a bad idea. Unite the happy Holland Hills.
This Saturday is the Wonton Soups. I guess this was a band we had last year and everybody loved them, so we brought them back. It's the end of season pool party on Saturday night, 6 o'clock. And the weather looks great, by the way, the forecast.
Are there blow-ups this year for that, Randy, or is it just
No.
the band?
Just the band. Movies in the park. The first one, 8:03, got canceled because of rain, and we moved it to 8:17. It got canceled. 8:18 got canceled. It's this Thursday night. Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, and then you can see the rest of the schedule. Little Mermaid, Wonka, and 9:14 is sponsored by the Wyomissing Hills Citizen Social Committee, and then figure out what the last 2 movies are. But that's the schedule for the movies.
Randy, did they tell you that typically they pick the movie for that? Was that communicated?
Not Kelsey, I can't remember her name.
Ashley?
She emailed me. Ashley emailed me and gave me a movie, and I told her I had already picked Wonka, and she said she was fine with it.
Okay. Yeah, years ago when, who was before Pete?
Dan.
Dan, no, who was before Dan?
Rob.
Rob, thank you. When Rob started it, he came to the Hills Committee and asked us to sponsor the one at the Hills. So we give money towards that each year, and he would always say like, here's your list of movies to select from, and we would choose one for a few years, maybe 2 years, but then he was gone, and
Yeah.
then,
COVID.
so yeah, we would like, if from a social committee member standpoint, we would like to be able to have a say in what that movie is. And I know you get like a set number that you can choose from a licensing standpoint, if we can just.
You can't do any peanuts, Charles Schultz doesn't allow you to do them.
Well-
So yeah,
Yeah, like I said, she emailed me, but it was post, and
Yeah, that's fine.
I'd already booked it, paid the licensing fee, and I
Yeah.
told her what it was, and she said, no, that's great, that'd be a
that's
perfect
fine,
movie."
yeah, but
That's
if,
why-
in the future, if we can,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
I
Okay.
wanted to make sure I didn't know how she had left it, so,
Yeah.
cause that came up at the last meeting, it was on the agenda to follow up with you to pick the movie, and then she responded and said that it had already been selected, so I just wanted to, like, for future, and that can be done whenever, so if you wanna do them all at once, like, you can reach out
to
Okay.
whoever, let me know and I can tell them and they can pick it, like, there's no timeline really, like, it just
Okay.
really
Any recommendations for the 9/28 movie? As you guys know, the Stonehouse project is underway. They've made tremendous progress. If you haven't driven by there, you can already tell what it's gonna look like. It looks awesome. Any recommendations of where to go for that specific movie? Or for that date?
Not the Stonehouse.
Not the Stonehouse.
Mausoleum.
Ooh,
There's
that'd
no,
be creepy.
there's no power there. I was there Monday or Friday.
What about, well, there's no parking. I was gonna say in the front yard of Borough Hall, like you did the Reading Fox.
You do it at the pool.
After the fact, when it's closed, yeah.
In the field.
Yeah, you could. I mean, yeah, there's power back at the pavilion.
It won't be drained by then, so it'll be, they drain it in September.
I would think by the end of September it'll be covered.
Okay.
Normally the first week.
Yeah, if it was not, it was
Would be an
drained but
issue
not
to keep
covered, I
people
would
off of
do
the,
it
anything that
Yeah.
happens, anything away from the cover,
Yeah.
that would be like the cover goes out to onto the deck pretty far.
Will they quit cutting the grass and doing all the maintenance back there as soon as the pool closes?
No, because otherwise the grass is gonna be 3 feet tall by the end of the season.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a possibility.
One person stepping on that cover and ruining it, like, you know what I mean, or the hinge.
Yeah, you'd almost have to put like caution tape up to keep people out of that area.
We have stakes, this one team has wooden stakes, one of ours.
Good to know.
Front yard?
Yeah.
So that's the front yard here?
Yeah. I mean, we did what, the Wyomissing band, I
Yeah,
think, was here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome when they were here.
that's a fun spot.
I'm not happy.
They don't have that much more space.
Can we do it on the library lawn? If you want to do the front yard?
No,
Only I question is that because it's a movie and
Just
you're trying to listen and cars driving by. I don't know if it's good or how it would be, but I would think
I mean,
that.
you go back to Happy Hollow, wasn't
Park,
Happy
yeah.
Hollow,
The
is
Hills.
that happening this weekend?
Yeah, Happy
the-
Hollow is
the-
Thursday.
Oh, it happens this Thursday or last Thursday?
This
That is
Thursday. Yeah.
You could do it there, yeah.
Yeah.
The hills,
The Hills is, yeah, the week before though. And that's, yeah.
I don't, Michelle's controlling.
Oh,
What?
You
and
scroll-
Sassy, can you go back up to the movies where they're at? Thanks. Just like your computer's there. Sure, Heights, yeah, okay. So is the quarry a possibility or no for a movie
The quarry's a long ways to run power.
from the pavilion?
Yeah.
And
It's hard to park there too.
Yeah.
Parking, I mean, people say that about parking. Parking's not bad there at all.
Nobody can walk though,
Or they
that's
used to
kind of the
be.
point.
Yeah.
Like if you put it somewhere else, some people can walk.
and handicaps.
I mean, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, because I think we're
Yeah.
using the same places.
You have
Yeah.
limited
Why don't we go
locations.
back to Berkshire Heights?
Berkshire Heights or Happy Hollow.
We do one in Berkshire Heights last year?
Well,
Yeah.
insurance is
Last
after
year.
it.
We did do it
And that one we have a generator for.
Yeah.
Yeah, just pick a location and every.
You already have Berkshire Heights Choice on the schedule. 8:31
Oh,
and
on
10:05.
We'll just make that the
Then go back to
rotation,
Happy
just
Hollow.
repeat it, just do Happy Hollow,
Yeah, just do
Berkshire
Happy
Heights
Hollow.
again.
Okay.
That's easy.
Then you don't have to, yeah, there you go. So,
Programming, playground, Kristin took you through everything, just to give you the numbers though, 2023, we had 582 kids, this year we had 531. Last year we generated 61,009, this year we generated 55,764. Program ended on the 2nd, we did all of our staff evaluations, the facility's been cleaned up, stored, organized, and the parent survey was sent out on 8/13. As Kristin went to, or mentioned, like the overall goal is we know we can't pack any more stuff to do. We did a lot, whether it was bounce houses, snow, kangaroos, you name it. We're not looking at next year to do more, it's do it smarter. Purchasing smarter, buying stuff further out, hiring better, possibly extending it to 9 and or 10 weeks, maybe going to 1 o'clock versus 12 o'clock. I have a call into Spring Township to talk how they organize their field trips. Maybe we introduce one field trip next year for the older kids. So that's what we're gonna look at for next year's playground program versus doing more stuff that way. Does that make sense?
How are we gonna pay for it?
Like, we spent $1,000 on foam and $1,000 on snow, and these kids are paying $1 an hour. $1 an hour.
I think the legitimate part of the conversation next month needs to be the fee schedule and raising the
The fee
cost.
schedule needs to be, and I think it needs to be increased significantly. And if you want to say, all right, the second kid is a little cheaper, the third and fourth and fifth kid is even cheaper yet, but $1 an hour, you can't. I mean, so we brought in 55,000, it cost us over 100. Well, you spent 30
Oh, the salaries.
I
on,
spent
yeah, 30 on.
25 on materials and
25
supplies.
on materials, how
That
much
is
was-
every year.
Right, but like, I know it's every year, but every year,
Yeah, so I'm,
taxpayers are paying half of it. For this, they're paying half of the pool cost.
well, let's say the playground specifically, we spent the same this year that they spent last year in materials and supplies on the playground itself, on the program.
Mhm.
They spent 25 last year, we spent 25 this year.
I'm not saying you spent more, I'm saying I think we're spending too much when we're only charging $1 an hour. That's all. You know, we're losing, 50,000 on playground. We're losing like 100,000 on the pool, it looks like, if not more. That's my very mild estimate from the numbers that I looked at.
Yeah.
Like, so we're losing $150,000 a year on just pool and playground, which the taxpayers are paying for.
So,
And then you talk about all the programs that we do for free. $1,300 for the band, $500 for each movie night.
Well, keep in mind some of those are sponsored.
Right. I just feel like we're not charging enough for playground.
We looked at a 10% increase and 25% increase, and even though they don't sound like much to go from $1 to $1.25, then you multiply it out times 3 kids, it's a couple $100 more to participate in the program.
there was a way.
Well, no, it's 75 cents, and it's an extra 75 cents an hour for 120 hours, so it's like an extra $100 for the summer.
Times 3 kids is $300.
No, I'm saying if you go up $1 to $1.25 an hour, if you have 3 kids, it's you're paying an extra 75 cents an hour. For 120 hours, that's like an extra maybe $100.
I would say too with the money, I do think we had talked about at a previous meeting. I remember like some of the evening playground kids were like, oh man, they got kangaroos in the morning. Like they got a lot more of the money was spent for the morning, if I recall correctly. So maybe charging more for the kids that sign up for the morning and charging less for the evening, because the evening requires, we're not, as long as you're keeping that same structure where the evening is more like just the typical playground environment versus the morning is more of the structure and the programming. I would charge more for morning and less for
Evening is
evening.
less, it is less.
We already
Although
do
it's
that.
still-
$1 an
because
hour.
it's-
It's still $1 an
And
hour.
I think if we planned to do that increase proportionally, because I think it actually is more than $1 an hour, is it not?
For
Because
evening?
it's 2 hours and
It's $1.25 an hour.
yeah,
For the evening?
Yep.
yeah.
Well, no, it's 5 days a week.
$80
Four.
no, it's 4.
It's 4.
4 days a week.
Oh, it's only 4
2
days a week.
hours.
Okay,
There's
then
no
it is
Friday
less.
night.
What I would
have
say,
planned it out as 5 days a
And
week.
it's significant.
what I'd say if you wanna come to the next playground meeting where we're gonna
Yeah.
talk more about the fee schedule,
Yeah.
the length of time for the program, whether it's 9 to 1 or 9 weeks, I would recommend coming to the next playground meeting.
When is that?
We have to schedule it, we don't have
Yeah,
to
I will
have
let you
it.
know, because I think this year with losing the registrants and budgeting, I mean, I think we can spend smarter as well. But I know that there were a lot of increases back to back without any notice at all in past years that were significant. And so I think if we increase, we just have to do it.
Just to give you an
in a
idea, what,
smart
in
way.
2020 it was $85 a kid, 2021 it was $85 a kid, 2022 it was $135
And there
a
were
kid.
sibling discounts.
But in 2020, a piece of lumber was $5, and now a piece of lumber's $35.
That's the point I made when we were talking about it.
It's
If
like-
nothing else, you have to look at inflation for
look at-
materials
Yeah,
and supplies on top of
Yeah.
your,
Like labor's increased, supplies have increased, and they need to understand that.
Well, like, well,
we can't watch their kid for $1 an hour.
if the state raises minimum wage to $15 an hour, guess what?
Yeah.
I wanted to forget to tell the playground committee that pre-season starts like the second week of August, and so some families, if that person like says, I'm gonna have this job and I'm gonna do it all the way to the end of the summer
Yeah,
and never take time off,
which
they
impacts
might
the
not get
whole-
any
yeah,
time
yeah.
off before preseason, so that's something to think about. I have kids that don't go away until, like, you know, cause they're committed to that, you know, so.
Do you hire kids, they work every day, the whole season, like Monday through Friday? Or do you, like, say your schedule's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you work
It depends on
Monday,
their
Tuesday,
availability.
Thursday?
When we hire them, we go over their availability. So every kid provides us with, hey, I have soccer on Thursdays, I can't work on Thursdays, so they never get scheduled on Thursday.
Okay.
So we go through all
I mean,
that.
I'm sure some families go on vacation and they have the week off, but some might wait till the end of the playground season and then go away, and then they have preseason, they have to be there no matter what.
Yeah.
Don't, like this fall, they don't play. So. Unfortunately. It's good preseason, maybe even pre-preseason.
Anything else on the pool? And we'll let you know when the next pool committee meeting is. Or playground. With the pool, you see the membership numbers. 2023 was 402, this year was 421 with a total of 1,200 total members. Revenues generated, 2023 is 127.8. What I didn't get to do is break out the swim lessons out of these numbers. Swim lessons are included in our pool revenues. Into summer party is this Saturday. The dates, we're already into revised hours. Based on staffing, I think that that's going to be a change in the rec guide, is that it'll list instead of 12 to 7 next year starting August 12th, or we're going to actually put it in the book that it switches to 2 o'clock. With preseason sports, it's too hard to get a lot of these athletes to go straight from practice in the morning to come work. They're either too tired or it's just putting too much pressure on them. So that'll be a change for next year.
Randy, sorry, you had communicated the pool was closing at 7, but it's staying open just for the end of, like, so the hours on the end of the summer party at the pool?
Yeah, it stays
It's
open
still
till 8.
6 to 8
Yeah.
on that day, even though the, okay.
Tennis program,
Can I just bug you about one more cost? For the pool, I know the individual membership used to be, you needed to be like over 18. You couldn't just have your child, I can't just sign my daughter up. Is that the case anymore or no? Like, can you just, can a 12-year-old
No,
get an individual membership?
no,
No.
it could be an adult and a single child.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, that has gotten past you this year by at least one resident. My next question is the single parent, is that a single parent household? Or, like, it used to be, I couldn't sign up as a single parent with a kid, knowing my husband was never gonna come, I still had to pay the 2-parent, because it was a 2-parent household.
I think we should be asking.
Household too, for that reason.
Right, but a 1-parent household, can I sign up as a 1-parent household if I'm,
I would
if
hope
my
so.
husband, I still live with him?
Yeah. I mean, I would hope so, because it's not our business, your marital status. If your
Right.
husband wants to
Yeah.
come to the pool, then sign up for 2 adults, 1 child. If your husband has no interest in the pool, you are a singular adult with
Okay.
1 child.
Well, I was told years ago when I tried to do that, they were like, no, this is 1 parent with child is a single parent
Although we
household.
created
In the last,
membership,
4
yeah,
years,
my
that's
route
changed.
changed.
Okay.
Yes, because we specifically
That
said
was
it doesn't
You're not
match the
going to the
demographic
pool,
of our,
because
Yeah.
you're not
our
paying
world.
for them.
These,
If you're
this
doing other
member, this two
programs.
adults
Yeah,
and
it's-
children.
beyond
You have
their
to sign up under my rec
And so we made some big changes.
Okay, so,
profile with all your
And then
kids.
change
But that doesn't mean you're
along
getting
with that
memberships
to,
for them.
try to
Okay,
mirror-
Because like you could have one
Because you
people at
opt
the
in.
playground, but
That
not
was another year,
another.
we also
Right,
raised
okay.
it, we don't raise every, we raised here and there, trying to do it gradually. And so not like one big fall swoop. Same thing,
Right.
so we raised $10 every year, which is $5.
yeah, okay. I was just curious about, and to know those costs. and
Well, one of the
if
ones that came up
the
this year,
guidelines
a lady called me, she said, hey, I'm married, I have no kids. And we're not gonna have kids, but there's nowhere for me to sign up as a member unless I have kids. I wanna sign up me and my husband, but we don't have kids.
Mhm.
So that's something I have to look at for next year. So,
I thought there was an adult membership, just a regular adult, there is.
Well, there's an individual.
There's individual.
Right.
But there's no
No.
discount for 2 people in the same
Oh,
household.
yeah,
So
well,
like,
you just,
yeah, we were in
just
that
pay
spot.
to.
but it was actually more than having
Yeah,
2 adults and a
and
kid.
kid.
Yeah, I know,
Well, it's
that's
not
what,
fair.
you know.
Yeah.
Not right.
Yeah, it's not,
Then they would just pay two parents with one child, which is
Yeah, it's
300. I would just drop
Borough,
it $20 and say it's
Yeah.
280.
Yeah.
It is, yeah,
I do think it'd be interesting to see if you had like the playground, like if you tried to give like a discount for pool memberships if they were in playground, I wonder how that would, I would be interested to see how that would play out. Like if you gave like, you were in playgrounds, you get a 10% off your pool membership, I don't know.
I don't think.
Just
I don't think
encourage
you-
more.
I
You
don't
don't
think-
wanna
I don't
cut
think
any
you need
revenue.
to. I don't think you need
No, I'm not
to.
trying to decrease revenue, I'm trying to increase membership, like if you're in this program, you give like a little incentive for them to sign up. I have no idea what the numbers are, you have to look at the numbers.
I would go the opposite way and say if you have a pool membership and your kid wants to be in playground in the morning before the pool starts, maybe you get a 10% discount. But that means they're paying more than $1 an hour.
I don't know, I just think somehow it'd be nice to encourage more people to carry
I don't know
them.
if this is the right category, but I forgot one more thing for next pool committee meeting that someone asked me about. Is this the right time to say that based on the law?
I would say just bring it up at your next board
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
Anything else for your report, Randy?
I mean, everything's right there at the bottom about the tennis, swimnastics. Swimnastics, we just sent out all the surveys, participant surveys for all these programs. So we'll be getting that feedback as well. But I've never seen so many old, happy people when they got their new dumbbells. The 18 of them were literally all smiles. Because the dumbbells they had were from 1942.
Oh my goodness. Some durable dumbbells.
Any questions about the director's report?
Wonderful. Thank you, Randy, for the report. And that is the end of the agenda, unless there's any public comments? No?
What was the next meeting, September 17th?
Yeah, adjourn, right?
Meeting is adjourned.
You have to
There's eight,
motion.
yes.